In office since 2015, Texas AG Commissioner Sid Miller is running for his fourth term. In his announcement, he said, in part, "I am ready to tackle new challenges, seize new opportunities, and keep Texas leading the way in agriculture." The eighth-generation farmer and rancher currently faces two challengers. On the Democratic ticket, there's rancher Clayton Tucker. But first, Miller will have to defeat his Republican challenger, a former beef farmer who was once among Miller's top donors. So we haven't hoped to get Miller on our show. We plan to have him coming in. But first, this morning, we're talking with candidate Nate Sheets. Thank you so much for being with us.
Vince, thanks for having me.
All right, we know that you were once one of Sid Miller's biggest contributors and donors there. So, what changed?
I just see there's such a need that we have here in Texas to really be able to focus on farmers and ranchers. I've been in agriculture for a long time, been a small producer all the way up to a large producer. Started with one beehive in my backyard. I think we've got 120,000 beehives this year. And so I understand not just the agriculture producing side, but I also understand the food side. And so farmers and ranchers in 1980 made 40 cents of every $1 of food. Today, 45 years later, they make 15 cents of every $1 of food. That's why in Texas we lost 68 farming and ranching families this week, last week, we'll lose them next week, and have since 2018 we've lost over 17,000 farming families in Texas.
Mm-hmm. So what made you come to this decision to want to do this and jump in the race?
Well, really, a good friend of mine, Rich Santorum, who ran for president, who also has endorsed me, really encouraged me to look at this. I was the CEO of Nature Nates until November of last year. And I spent 12 years in full-time Christian ministry. I worked for a Christian mission agency, and then I spent 12 years doing Nature Nates full-time. Mm-hmm. And so really kind of asking the Lord, where would you have me invest this next season of life? And Rick just said, people in America are getting sick from the food that we eat. You cleaned up the honey industry by the testing and things that you did at Nature Nates. Why don't you go do that for the rest of America and Texas? And so came back, and I actually took Sid out to lunch and asked him what his plans were, and he said that he was considering running for a different office. And I said, man, great, I'd love to, run for AG Commissioner. He said, I think you should do it. And so, honestly, I just started talking with a lot of different people out there, and the more people I talked to, the more sense of urgency that I heard from, especially moms. Please go clean up the food. Please go clean up the food. And then also the school lunch program. We are 44th. Last year, in 2024, we were 44th in the nation in nutritional value in the school lunch program. That's a tragedy. Mm-hmm. What kids eat directly impacts their performance. And we keep having behavior issues and education issues. And, I heard the governor at a lunch a couple weeks ago said, I want Texas to be #1 in education. My first thought and comment is, well, then we have to change the way that we approach feeding kids. Kids that are on SNAP program get 40%, 60% of their nutritional value from that school lunch program. And we have to do better. They deserve more. We deserve more. And we need it as a country. 78% of kids 18 to 25 are ineligible to serve in the military today because of their health. So it's a national security crisis. Mm-hmm. We also spend $4 trillion a year in America treating diseases of symptoms related to the food that we eat. So it's a fiscal security issue. And we're losing farming and ranching families, and 70% of all Americans have one chronic disease or more related to the food that we eat. So you can see how these two things, farming and ranching, families and production, and the quality of food, we can come together by giving farming and ranching families access to grow that 15 cents back towards 40 cents.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that there's been anywhere that Sid has missed the mark, and that you think that you can do it better than he can?
I'm not going to plague the Texas Department of Agriculture with ethic issues. There's been a lot of things that distract what's going on at Texas Department of Agriculture. And if the Lord allows me back to be AG Commissioner, we won't have any of those issues.
All right. Nate Sheets, thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Up next, your political headlines, including a fast-approaching Texas voter registration deadline and efforts to get the state's new education savings account program up and running.